brought on a list of some of the things I feel like this book improved on or just added that was much better than what was in the first book. And the first thing, which I say all the time, is the most important thing of any story is the characters. And in book one, I couldn't stand either of the protagonists for multiple reasons. But between Miller and Holden, just going back and forth between those two, I really didn't like either of the POVs, so I didn't really get enjoyment out of that experience. It was mainly just like the world building and other side characters that I enjoyed about that book. But in this book, it introduces 3 more POVs, and I love all of them. And I probably have been introduced to my favorite character in the entire series, who is Bobby. And I would say this series has actually done a pretty good representation of, now at least, of, male and female, POVs and perspectives. Whereas in the first book, it was kind of just like mostly men. But yeah, I absolutely love Bobby. I love Ava Sarala. I love Prax. They're all so different that the dynamic between all the new characters and the old characters, it blends super well, especially towards the end. And yeah, I feel like this is something that the book fixed that I didn't quite like about book one, was it has more POVs. I don't need something like Wheel of Time that has like a dozen POVs. But when both POVs or both main characters are characters that I don't generally like, there needs to be something more for me to grasp onto. So that's the first thing that I fixed. The next thing was better character development. And this goes back to why I didn't like most of book one, was because I felt like both characters were generally stagnant. If you watched that first review, which you probably didn't, but I basically said that James Holden doesn't improve as a character. He does the same things, he does the same mistakes over and over and over again. And he's a captain who is leading a crew and who is constantly causing conflict within his crew and outside and, things like that. But very early on, they basically fix James Holden, and that they take a problem, or they take him as a character and they restructure him to start learning from his mistakes. He doesn't just stop making mistakes altogether. He still makes mistakes constantly, but he starts to learn from them, or at least reflect on them like a human being would. And so I really appreciated that. And it's it's something that was missing from book one. These 2 one-note characters that did the same rinse and repeat things over and over again and constantly caused conflict and just turmoil, within the system. And it didn't make for an enjoyable read. The character development across all characters that are introduced. Besides maybe Prax, he's kind of one track, but there's a reason for that, and I understand it. But all characters have incredible character development, and it's something that I really appreciated after coming off of book one, which it was kind of absent. The next thing was characters don't act out. And what I mean by this is, when you have a book where there's a lot of POVs and there's a lot of, different factions in play, I feel like sometimes characters will act out just to get the plot moving and for there to be plot progression. That didn't happen at all in this book. And I know that sounds a bit nitpicky, but it really isn't. And this is something that happens a lot in like mystery books, which kind of is what the first Expanse book is like, is that characters will act in a certain way to reach their end destination. And that kind of is what happened in book one. A lot of the time Miller acted out in ways outside of his character, I felt like, just to reach the end goal. That didn't happen at all in this book. Characters, in my opinion, acted very naturally, and the events that happened afterwards was just the natural conclusion or the aftermath of those actions. But the last thing that I really liked that this book did, and it's a big departure from book one, but I understand that they're kind of different, is the political aspect is much more at the forefront. It is much higher political stakes in book number 2, which I guess I kind of expected, seeing that one of the main new characters is like a big political figurehead. But yeah, I really liked it. And think like Game of Thrones, like the Cosmere, the political aspect of it is not like overblown. It's very subtle, and it just like integrates into the story really well. It doesn't like overtake the plot or anything. It serves as a part of the plot. And at the end, it sort of like, again, it mixes with all the other POVs and all the other storylines really well. that's something that it did incredibly well, in my opinion, was it took all these different plot lines as well. It mixed them together. And at the end, the ending, I absolutely love the ending of this book. But yeah, other than that, I feel like just this book is a massive improvement over book number one, Leviathan Wakes. I really like Leviathan Wakes, but it's just something about it. It's just I felt like there was something missing, and what was missing was almost everything that was in Caliban's War. I don't know how to explain it. It's just everything else was so much better. All the characters, the character writing, the character development, the plot developments, the storylines, everything, the interactions, all of it. I feel like almost everything else was better, pretty much. But I feel like this sets up the Expanse of Sides Reborn really well, because as far as I know, the first two books in this series is what that game is going to be on, and we get a lot more information in this book on the proton molecule, which is like this zombie turning gene, whatever it is. But we get introduced to like this alien race, the proton molecule, that turns people into zombies. And so we kind of now have like a main conflict. And yeah, I feel like that's a great stopping point for what game one can be about. And yeah, I'm just really excited for that. I'm excited to read more of the series as well. I just got to get back to Red Rising. I got to get back to the second trilogy of that one. I still got to do my reread and finally get a review out on the first Paul trilogy. So expect that coming up as well. But yeah.